these are the 10 books that I have to read before the end of the year. Hello you guys, what is up? Welcome or welcome back. Today's video is going to be my end of year TBR video, my 10 before the end, if you will. And we're just gonna talk about a few of the books that I really want to get to before 2024 comes to an end. I've got a pretty good mix of genres to talk about today and a lot of different books that I'm very excited to get to. But let's just get right into the video. I thought I would start with fantasy / magical realism. The first book on my end of year TBR is The Unmaking of June Farrow. This book is about June Farrow, and when she's very young, her mother disappears mysteriously. She grows up with her grandmother on their family flower farm, and then as she gets older, there's a little bit of magic that kind of comes to her and is helping her to figure out what happened to her mother and kind of what is going on. So it seems very mysterious. I've heard it's very atmospheric and really beautifully written. I think there's a little bit of a romance. It's really a story about June and her figuring out what happened to her mother, and I've had it on my TBR for most of this year. I've been really intrigued by it, so I really am hoping to get to this one before the end of the year. The second book on my TBR is The Wishing Game by Meg Schaffer. This one is the only book I think on this list that is also on my November TBR. So I definitely want to get to this one this month. So many of you guys love this book, and I actually started it a while ago, but got distracted, put it down, and I've been thinking a lot about it, and I really want to read it and find out what happens. This book is about Lucy. She is a teacher's aide and she becomes very close with this little orphan boy and really wants to adopt him, but she can't because she can't afford to adopt him. Then her favorite childhood author decides to release one more book. He hasn't written in a long time, and she's read all of the books. She reads all of the books to this little boy that she's hoping to adopt. And then when this author announces that he's gonna release his final book, he, instead of publishing it like a normal author would do, decides to hold a competition on the island that he lives on, and he invites a bunch of his biggest fans to compete in a series of events, and whoever wins gets to have the one and only manuscript of the book. So that sounds so interesting. It seems very like wholesome and sweet with a little bit of magic, and I'm really intrigued to read this one. The next genre of books that I want to talk about are lit fic and romance. So book number 3 on my end of year TBR is Daisy Haites. I read Magnolia Parks earlier this year in a 24-hour reading blog. You can definitely go watch that one if you haven't seen it. But I loved that book. The ending just like ripped my soul in half, and I think about it all the time. So I really want to continue on with the books, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to pick up the next one, which is Daisy Haites, before the end of the year. The next book on my TBR is Double Exposure. This is by Alyssa R. Sloan. So this book is about Maiko and Adrian, and they are both kind of famous Hollywood people, and they used to date like way back when. Now it's many years in the future. They're no longer together, but they keep getting thrown together in different movies and Hollywood scenarios, and so they're kind of getting to know each other again and seeing if they were right to separate all those years ago, or maybe if they're better off together. It sounds very interesting. One of my guilty pleasure reading tropes is One of Us is Famous. So both of these people are famous. I feel like that should be really fun. I love like Hollywood famous drama stories like this, and the vibe does kind of remind me a little bit of La La Land. I don't know why. So this seems like a fun second chance, intriguing book. Will they get together? Won't they get together? I love this cover, and I'm very intrigued to read this one. Okay, my next book is like a historical literary fiction book, and that book is The Secret Book of Flora Leah. This is by Patty Callahan Henry. I have read a few of her other books and absolutely loved every book that I've read from her. This book begins in World War II with two young sisters who are just trying to make the most of their lives, and so they create a little secret world together. Then many years later, they get separated. One of the sisters disappears, and the other one is just left to continue on with her life. She works in a bookstore, and then one day a new book is being published and she finds it in her bookstore, and the book is the story that her and her sister made up as children. She is completely confused because no one else in the world ever knew about these stories that she made up, and so she decides to go on a journey to try and find the author of this book and see what the connection may be to her sister. And that just sounds so interesting, so beautiful. I was given this book as a gift for my birthday earlier this year, and so I really would like to read it soon. And yeah, I just think it's going to be really cozy and beautiful. Perfect like cozy reading for this time of year. The last book in the fiction genre that I have is The Wedding People by Alison S. Patch. This book came out earlier this year and I have been immediately intrigued by it. I've heard very many good things about it, and this book is about a woman who books a room in a hotel because she has decided to end her life. That's the opening pages of it. However, once she gets there, she realizes she is the only person staying in this hotel that isn't a guest for a wedding that's happening this weekend. So the bride of the wedding is freaking out. She's like, how did this happen? How is there this random person here at my wedding? And decides, well, we have to involve her, we have to invite her, the wedding has to be perfect. And so they kind of develop this relationship. It becomes very complicated for this woman who has gone to the hotel for a very specific reason. And I just think that sounds so interesting. I'm really intrigued by it. It sounds like it's really beautifully written and such an intriguing and unique story. So it's one that I've had on my TBR for so much of this year. I heard about it before it came out back in July, I think, and I really would like to get to it before the year ends. Okay, now I have a few mystery thriller books that I'd like to read before the end of the year. Book number 7 is The Golden Spoon. This book I've heard is basically Great British Baking Show, but a thriller. And that sounds so fun, so cozy. I think it's about a group of contestants that are on a baking show in this old English manor, and something happens, stuff goes down. It sounds so much fun. Again, just like a perfect cozy mystery for this time of year. So I have it on hold at the library right now. I am so intrigued to read this one. Book number 8 is The Cautious Traveler's Guide to the Wastelands. I actually started this book in another 24-hour video. I will link that video for you if you haven't seen it. But this book is so good. It just was a little too slow, I found, for the 24-hour readathon, and so I was saving it for later, and I really would like to get back to it and finish it before the year is out. This book is set entirely on a train, and it is a train that goes between Moscow and Beijing, and in order to get to these destinations it goes through the Wastelands. The Wastelands is very much its own character in this book, and it's like dark, mysterious, intriguing. The last time that the train has run, something mysterious happened. None of the passengers either survived or remember what happened the last time the train went on its journey. And then it stopped for several months. There were no train journeys. And this book is about the story of the first journey that the train takes back after stopping. It is very literary. It's quite slow and mysterious, but I think it's gonna have a really good payoff. It's just so like eerie and quiet. It's a very quiet book, which I love. So I really would like to come back to it and find out what happens on the Trans-Siberian Express. Okay, my last little mystery thriller book is How to Solve Your Own Murder by Kristen Perrin. This book came out earlier this year, and the reason that I really want to read this one is because it feels totally different than any other mystery that I've read before. This book is set in like an old mansion, and it kind of is giving Knives Out vibes because a bunch of people have come together to read the will of this woman who has mysteriously passed away. Except for she has all brought them here and told them, oh, I've been murdered. You guys have to solve my murder and find out what happened to me. So she knows that she has been murdered, and all of these people are getting sent on like a little goose chase trying to figure out who murdered her, what happened, and it seems so cozy, funny, like such a good mysterious vibe, and I feel like the perfect book to curl up with on a Saturday afternoon with a cup of tea. Sounds like so much fun. That is How to Solve Your Own Murder. All right. The very last book, book number 10 on my end of year TBR, is Little Women. I have never read Little Women. I watched the 2019 Greta Gerwig adaptation back when it came out and I fell in love with it. I love that movie. I think it is so beautifully done. I didn't know anything about the story going into it, and I watched it with my mom, who also had never read or seen Little Women before, and so we watched it together and we just like sobbed, and it's just so beautiful. So I really would like to read it because I want to watch the movie over again, but I think I want to read the book first before watching the movie again. I know that the book opens on Christmas Eve and goes through many Christmases. I've heard it's kind of like a holiday book, so I really would like to read it this holiday season, and then I can watch the movie again. If you're not familiar with Little Women, neither was I, but it is a book about 4 sisters and their life. It follows them as they grow up and they go through joy and hardship, and it just such a beautiful story. And so I really would like to read Little Women and kind of experience the novel for the first time. Alrighty, that is all for my 10 before the end. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what books you are hoping to read before the end of the year. I would love to chat about it. But thank you so much for being here. I love ya, and I will hopefully see you for the next one. Bye-bye.